What if Naruto didn't seek peace? What if he chose domination instead? What if the 5 great nations fell one by one? Not to hatred, but to absolute power. In this story, Naruto doesn't unite the world. He conquers it, and when the dust settles, every high-ranking Kunoichi must choose: resist, or kneel. Welcome to Will of Fire Stories. If you enjoy dark, cinematic anime what if sagas, like the video, subscribe, and let the conquest begin. Chapter 1. The 0 Point Event. The Fourth Shinobi World War did not end with a handshake or a celebration. It ended with a cold, tactical recalculation of reality. As the moon's red glare faded and Kage Otsutsuki was pulled into her celestial prison, Naruto Uzumaki did not feel relief. He felt an overwhelming sense of structural failure. He looked at the bruised and broken shinobi around him, men and women who had spent decades fighting for different colored headbands, and he saw a legacy of inefficient chaos. The experiment of the 5 nations has reached its terminal point, Naruto's voice echoed, not through the air, but through a global telepathic pulse that vibrated in the minds of every living being on the planet. Standing at the epicenter of the frost battlefield, Naruto's transformation was absolute. The warm, orange glow of the 9 tails was gone, replaced by a sterile, blinding white aura of 6 paths energy. His skin looked like polished marble, and his eyes had evolved beyond human biology, a cold, shimmering Rinne Sharingan that mapped out the atomic structure of everything in his line of sight. Naruto, what are you saying? The third Hokage, stepped forward, his lightning armor flickering. The war is over. We go home. Home is a relic of the past, Naruto replied, his voice devoid of emotion. From this moment, all national sovereignty is revoked. The hidden villages are decommissioned. The world is now under the Genesis Mandate. The 5 Kage, Onoki, Meiterumi, Gaara, and Tsunade, moved instinctively to surround him. They were the world's greatest powers, but to Naruto's upgraded vision, they were simply high chakra obstacles. Gravity well. 100x, Naruto whispered. The air itself became heavy as a mountain. A dome of invisible, crushing force slammed the cage into the dirt. The ground beneath them shattered. Tsunade's ribs cracked. Mei gasped for air. Gaara's sand was pinned to the earth like lead. They weren't just being fought, they were being compressed. Naruto turned his gaze toward Tsunade Senju. Tsunade. Biological asset. Sannin class. Function. Genetic stability and restoration. Naruto raised a hand, and a truth-seeking shackle, a ring of black, indestructible matter, snapped around her neck, glowing with a soft purple light. You are the first claim of the mandate. You will not return to the leaf as a leader. You will return as my senior advisor and imperial consort. Your life force is now tethered to my own. Meiterumi, the Mizukage, watched in horror, her lava-style breath failing her. Naruto's eyes locked onto her. Meiterumi, strategic asset. Elemental versatility. You will oversee the naval integration of the mist. You are claimed. Sasuke Uchiha stood to the side, his Susanoo flickering. He saw the logic in Naruto's eyes, a logic that transcended the Uchiha's own dreams of revolution. You've done it, Naruto, Sasuke said, kneeling in the dirt. You didn't just win the war. You've ended the era of the human. I am the monarch of the new world, Naruto declared, his HUD interface scanning the horizon. The nations will not be asked to join. They will be integrated. The women of the high clans, the leaders of the old guard, they will form the foundation of my court. We are no longer ninja. We are the keepers of the eternal peace. As the sun rose over the battlefield, it didn't shine on 5 separate nations. It shone on a single, vast Uzumaki empire. The conquest had begun, and the first queens had already been marked by the king. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. The Leaf's Integration Protocol. The Hidden Leaf Village did not receive a hero's welcome, it received a total system override. As the gates of Konoha appeared on the horizon, the sky turned a deep, digital violet. Naruto Uzumaki did not walk through the entrance, he descended from the clouds, flanked by a fleet of shadow sentinels, beings made of pure, solidified black chakra that moved with the precision of machines. Attention, citizens of the former Hidden Leaf, Naruto's voice resonated through every house, every alley, and every mind in the village. The Hokage administration is officially dissolved. Resistance is a statistical error that will be corrected with absolute force. Welcome to the capital of the Uzumaki Empire. Inside the village, the elite Kunoichi, the strongest biological assets of the Land of Fire, gathered to face the threat. Sakura Haruno stepped forward, her 100 healings seal glowing on her forehead, her eyes burning with defiance. Naruto, I don't know what happened to you on that battlefield, but you're finished. She roared, launching a ground-shattering strike toward him. Naruto didn't even raise his hand. As Sakura's fist was inches from his face, a kinetic absorption shield flickered into existence. The shockwave of her own punch was redirected into her arm, snapping the bone instantly. Naruto caught her by the throat, his eyes scanning her vitals. Sakura Haruno. Biological asset. Medical intelligence. Status. Subjugated, Naruto stated coldly. He pressed a black, karma tag, onto her shoulder. Your strength is now redirected to the Imperial Hospital. You will ensure my soldiers never fall, or your own life force will be drained to compensate. You are the second queen of the court. Sakura's defiance died as the tag rewrote her chakra signature. She fell to her knees, her eyes glazing over with a forced, deep-coded loyalty. Next was Hinata Hyuga. She stood in the center of the Hyuga compound, her Byakugan active, her heart breaking. Naruto-kun, why? Naruto appeared in front of her in a blur of light. He touched her cheek, but there was no warmth in his fingers. Hinata. Genetic asset. Pure Byakugan. Function. Total surveillance. You were the only one who saw me when I was a ghost. Now, you will be my eyes across the globe. You are the high priestess of the empire. With a pulse of 6 paths energy, Naruto evolved her Byakugan into the Tenseigan. The power surge was so great it forced the entire Hyuga clan to their knees. Hinata's personality didn't vanish, but it was anchored to Naruto's will. She was no longer a shy girl, she was a goddess of the New World Order, bound to her king. Finally, Naruto entered the Yamanaka flower shop. Ino Yamanaka didn't even have time to scream before his shadow wrapped around her. Ino Yamanaka. Psychic asset. Global communication. You will be the voice of the empire, Naruto commanded. He fused his mind with hers, using her clan's secret techniques to create a psychic network that linked every brain in the nation to his throne. By nightfall, the Leaf was no longer a village of ninjas. It was a high-tech fortress. The harem was not just a title, it was a strategic council of sovereigns. Every high-ranking female shinobi had been claimed, their powers unified under Naruto's singular vision. The king sat in his new obsidian palace, his queens standing behind him in a silent, powerful line. The Land of Fire had been integrated. The remaining 3 nations were next. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. The Desert's Final Submission. With the Land of Fire fully integrated into the Shogunate's neural network, Naruto turned his gaze toward the west. The Land of Wind was a wasteland of shifting sands, but its strategic value was immense. Naruto didn't send a diplomatic envoy, he sent a gravity spike. A massive pillar of black obsidian descended from the sky, piercing the center of Sunagakur. It didn't explode, it simply began to broadcast a frequency that neutralized every sand-based jutsu within the city. As the village panicked, Naruto appeared atop the Kage's office, his molecular fiber cloak billowing in the heat. Gaara, the Kage and Naruto's former friend, stood on a platform of sand, his expression one of mourning. Naruto, you've become the storm that swallows the world. I cannot let you take my people. Your people are inefficiently governed, Gaara, Naruto replied, his Rinne Sharingan cold and unblinking. The desert is a resource, not a kingdom. I am here to optimize it. Gaara attacked with a sand tsunami, but Naruto simply held out a hand. Shinra Tensei. Void Pulse. The massive wave of sand turned into glass instantly, shattered into a billion pieces by the sheer pressure of Naruto's chakra. Within seconds, Gaara was pinned to the roof, his Shukaku chakra being siphoned away into Naruto's palm. But Naruto's primary objective in the sand wasn't just the Kage, it was the woman who held the village's military iron together, Temari. She leapt into the fray, her giant folding fan creating gusts that could slice through steel. Naruto caught the wind with a single finger, redirecting the vacuum back at her. Before she could recover, he was behind her, his hand glowing with a dominance seal. Temari. Military asset. Strategic command and wind-style supremacy, Naruto's HUD calculated. The sand needs a ruler who understands the cruelty of the sun. Gaara is too soft. You will be my governor of the West. He pressed the seal onto the small of her back. The surge of 6 paths energy didn't just overpower her, it elevated her. Her fan began to glow with a white, celestial light, and her eyes sharpened with a new, absolute clarity. She looked at the kneeling Gaara and then at Naruto. The wind has changed, Temari said, her voice dropping into a tone of cold loyalty. The Sand Village accepts the Genesis mandate. Naruto didn't stop there. He identified Matsuri and the other high-ranking female Jonin of the Sand, marking them as the Desert Guard. By the time the moon rose, the Land of Wind was no longer a sovereign nation. It was a factory of energy, governed by Temari under Naruto's absolute decree. The harem was growing, not just in numbers, but in power. Naruto now had the medical intelligence of the leaf, the all-seeing eyes of the Hyuga, and the iron command of the sand. He looked toward the hidden cloud in the north. The next branch of the old world was about to be pruned. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4. The Lightning's Eternal Silence. The Land of Lightning was the most technologically advanced of the 5 nations, but its defenses were useless against a god who could rewrite the laws of physics. Naruto arrived at the hidden cloud not with a fleet, but with a ion storm pulse. From the clouds above, a cascade of white lightning descended, but it didn't strike the buildings, it struck the village's power grid, absorbing every spark of electricity into Naruto's own truth-seeking orbs. The Raikage, charged at Naruto with his lightning-style chakra mode, moving at the speed of sound. "I won't let a brat from the leaf dismantle our pride," I roared. Naruto didn't even blink. He utilized a Menetejikara, zero shift, swapping places with a pebble. I's massive fist struck nothing but air. Before the Raikage could turn, Naruto tapped him on the spine. Neural lock, absolute. The Raikage's legendary speed was turned against him, his own nervous system was frozen in a feedback loop of agony. He collapsed, a statue of muscle and regret. Naruto stepped over the fallen leader, his gaze fixing on the cloud's most dangerous assets, Samui, Yugito ni, and Mabui. "The cloud's strength is wasted on ego," Naruto's voice boomed, drowning out the thunder. "Your lightning will no longer be a weapon of war. It will be the pulse of my empire." Samui, the cool-headed strategist, tried to coordinate a counterattack, but Naruto appeared in her personal space instantly. He didn't use a blade, he used a chakra binder. He caught her chin, his Rinne Sharingan burning into her retinas. Samui, intelligence asset, tactical logic and information warfare, Naruto's HUD flashed. "You see the world as a game of pieces. I am the board, you will be my minister of global intelligence. Your cold mind is perfect for my court." He placed a binary seal on her forehead. A surge of blue energy flowed into her, upgrading her brain's processing power to match a supercomputer. Her eyes turned a deep, glowing sapphire. She stopped fighting. She stepped back and bowed, her logic overridden by Naruto's superior design. Next, Naruto turned to Yugito ni, the two-tails Jinchuriki. "You possess a fragment of my power, Yugito. Return it to the source." With a simple gesture, Naruto bypassed her defenses and pulled the Matabi essence directly into his core. Instead of killing her, he infused her body with 6-path senjutsu, turning her into a celestial predator. "You will lead my Imperial Hunter Corps," Naruto commanded. No one flees from the Shogunate's reach. Finally, Naruto claimed Mabui, the woman who could teleport matter across the world. She was the final piece needed for the Empire's logistics. He marked her as the Grand Transporter, ensuring his armies could strike anywhere on the planet in a millisecond. The hidden cloud had been silenced. Its lightning was now harnessed to power the Shogunate's growing infrastructure. Naruto stood atop the highest peak of Kumogakure, surrounded by his new cloud queens. The north had been conquered. Only the mist and the stone remained to be integrated into the eternal peace. End of Chapter 4. Chapter 5. The Mist's Absolute Dissolution. The Land of Water was protected by a permanent shroud of thick, acidic mist, but to Naruto's Rinne Sharingan, the fog was as transparent as glass. He arrived at the hidden mist not as a traveler, but as a continental architect. As his boots touched the surface of the ocean, the water for miles around turned into solid ice, creating a crystalline path that led directly to the Mizukage's office. The village's specialized hunters, the 7 swordsmen, attempted to ambush him from the vapor, but Naruto didn't even draw a weapon. "Universal pull, molecular anchor," Naruto commanded. Every particle of moisture in the air was suddenly magnetized toward Naruto's palm. The mist didn't just clear, it was condensed into a single, massive sphere of water that hovered above the village like a liquid moon. The Mizukage, Mai Terumi, stepped out onto her balcony, her face pale. She saw her village's ultimate defense turned into a toy in Naruto's hand. "You've already taken the leaf, the sand, and the cloud," Mai said, her voice trembling but her gaze sharp. Do you intend to drown us all, Naruto? Death is a waste of resources, May, Naruto replied, descending toward her. The mist is a realm of secrets and hidden bloodlines. Under the old system, you were a village of assassins. Under the Genesis Mandate, you are the Empire's research and development hub. May attempted to use her lava style, but the heat was instantly absorbed by the truth-seeking orb circling Naruto. He moved through her defenses like a ghost and caught her by the waist. His grip was absolute. Mei Terumi. Genetic acid. Dual Keke Genkai. Function. Chemical synthesis in biological warfare, Naruto's HUD analyzed. Your beauty is a distraction, your real value is your mastery over the elements. You will be my minister of science and alchemy. He pressed a Nexus seal against her heart. The seal glowed a fiery orange before turning a deep, imperial purple. Mei's body arched as the Six Paths chakra refined her lava and boil styles into celestial plasma. Her resistance evaporated, replaced by a profound, intoxicating sense of purpose. She looked at Naruto not as an enemy, but as the inevitable evolution of the world. The mist belongs to the Emperor, Mei announced, her voice carrying across the silent village. Naruto then turned his attention to the elite female Jonin of the mist, including the weapon master Chojiro's subordinates. He marked them as the maritime enforcers, ensuring the oceans were no longer a barrier to his rule. By the time the liquid moon was lowered back into the sea, the hidden mist had been reformatted. The secrets of the seven swordsmen were uploaded into the Shogunate's database, and Mei Terumi had taken her place in Naruto's growing court. 4 nations had fallen, only the land of Earth and its stubborn walls remained between Naruto and total planetary unification. End of Chapter 5. Chapter 6. The Stone's Total Deconstruction. The land of Earth was a fortress of jagged peaks and impenetrable stone, but to Naruto, it was merely a collection of atoms waiting to be rearranged. The hidden stone relied on its absolute defense, a mountainous barrier that had stood for centuries. Naruto arrived at the gates not with an army, but with a subatomic vibration. He placed his hand on the earth, and the resonance of his Six Paths chakra traveled through the tectonic plates. Within seconds, the unbreakable walls of Iwagakure didn't crumble, they liquefied, turning from solid rock into a fine, shimmering dust that settled at Naruto's feet. The Tsuchikage, Onoki, hovered in the air, his particle style glowing in his palms. You've destroyed the balance of the world, boy. I will turn you into dust. Naruto looked up, his Rinne Sharingan spinning with a mathematical coldness. Atomic negation. Null field. As Onoki fired his cube of destruction, the light simply vanished. Naruto had deactivated the very laws of physics that allowed the particle style to exist. In a flash of light, Naruto appeared above the old man and tapped his forehead. The Tsuchikage's flight was revoked, he plummeted to the ground, his heavy-weighted boulder jutsu pinning him to the earth like an insect under a microscope. Naruto's true target stepped out from the rubble, Kuretsuchi, the granddaughter of the Tsuchikage and the future of the stone. She gripped her kunai, her eyes wide with terror and admiration. The stone does not break, Naruto. She yelled, her voice echoing through the canyons. The stone does not break, but it can be carved, Naruto replied, his voice a low hum of power. Your grandfather belongs to a dead age. You belong to the new era. He bypassed her guard with a spatial fold, appearing directly behind her. He grabbed her shoulder, his fingers emitting a tectonic link seal. Kuretsuchi. Strategic asset. Earth-style mastery in volcanic synthesis, Naruto's HUD calculated. The world needs a foundation. You will be my minister of infrastructure and global defense. You will build the walls that protect my subjects, and the prisons that hold my enemies. The seal burned into her skin, glowing with a deep, earthy amber light. Kuretsuchi's chakra began to resonate with the planet itself. She felt the weight of the entire world's crust under her command. The defiance in her heart was crushed by the overwhelming realization that Naruto wasn't a tyrant, he was the architect. She let go of her weapon and knelt, the dust of the village rising to form a throne for her king. Naruto then scanned the remaining ranks of the stone, claiming the elite Kunoichi like Hanabi, visiting from the Leaf, and the high-ranking scouts, marking them as the geological enforcers. The 5 nations were no longer 5. The maps were obsolete. The hidden stone had been dismantled and rebuilt into the imperial foundation. Naruto stood atop the highest peak of the land of Earth, his queens, from all 5 regions now unified behind him. The conquest of the Shinobi World was complete. Now, the Emperor turned his gaze toward the heavens. The era of men was over, the era of the God King had begun. End of Chapter 6. Chapter 7. The Final Purge of the Shadows. With the 5 nations integrated, Naruto's Genesis mandate moved to eliminate the only remaining variable, the rogue elements. The Akatsuki and the underground mercenary networks were no longer a threat, they were legacy bugs in a perfected system. Naruto sat upon his obsidian throne in the newly constructed Imperial Spire, his mind linked to the global psychic net. He didn't need to hunt his enemies, he simply waited for the world's chakra to report their locations. They are hiding in the cracks of the old world, Naruto's voice echoed through the minds of his queens. The rebel cells, the resistance, it is time to delete them. The primary target was the Hidden Rain Village, the last bastion of the old world's pain. Konan, the Angel of the Rain, had organized a desperate coalition of rogue ninja who refused to bow to the shogunate. Naruto didn't send an army, he descended alone, parting the permanent storm clouds of the rain with a gesture of his truth-seeking rod. Konan, Naruto said, floating above the steel towers. You fought for a dream of peace through paper and ink. I have built it with blood and iron. Konan unleashed billions of paper bombs, a sea of white intent on erasing him. Naruto simply closed his eyes. Bansho Tenon, molecular compression. The paper bombs didn't explode, they were pulled into a single point of infinite density, crushed into a black marble that Naruto caught between his fingers. He moved with a zero-point shift, appearing directly in front of her. Konan, logistical asset, infinite replication and paper god mastery, Naruto's HUD analyzed. The Empire needs a way to record its history and manage its archives. Your angel persona is no longer a symbol of rebellion. You will be my imperial archivist. He pressed a void ink seal onto her forehead. The white paper of her wings turned a deep, shimmering black, infused with 6 paths chakra. Her memory was rewritten, her devotion to Nagato was shifted to the Emperor. She knelt in the pouring rain, her black wings wrapping around her like a shroud of loyalty. But the purge wasn't complete. Naruto's scanners picked up a high-level chakra signature in the shadows, Karen Uzumaki. She had been hiding with the remnants of Orochimaru's experiments. Naruto tracked her to a hidden laboratory in seconds. Karen, genetic asset, Uzumaki vitality and sensory supremacy, Naruto stated as he broke through the laboratory's reinforced walls. Your life force is too valuable to be wasted on a snake. Karen didn't even try to fight. The sheer pressure of Naruto's Uzumaki chakra was like standing before a sun. He didn't just claim her, he synchronized her. He placed his hand over her heart, and her heal bite ability was evolved into a global restoration pulse. You will be the grand matriarch of the Uzumaki bloodline, Naruto declared. Through you, the imperial lineage will be preserved. By the end of the day, the last pockets of resistance had been neutralized. The rogue elements were either deleted or integrated into the shogunate's hierarchy. Naruto stood atop the Imperial Spire, Konan and Karen added to his court of sovereigns. The planet was now a single, unified organism. The harem was no longer just a council, it was the neural hub of a planet-scale civilization. The shadows were gone, there was only the light of the Emperor. End of Chapter 7. Chapter 8. The Ascension of the Moon. The Earth was conquered, but Naruto's Rinne Sharingan saw beyond the atmosphere. He realized that the greatest threat to his perfect order wasn't terrestrial, it was celestial. The remnants of the Otsutsuki clan were still a variable that could disrupt his global optimization. To protect his empire, Naruto initiated the Lunar Annexation Project. He didn't build a rocket, he used his 6 paths chakra to construct a gravitational bridge between the Earth and the Moon. Naruto ascended to the lunar surface in a matter of seconds, his molecular fiber cloak glowing against the vacuum of space. He wasn't alone, he was accompanied by Hinata Hyuga, whose newly awakened Tensegan eyes were the key to controlling the lunar core. Waiting for them in the ruins of the Celestial Palace was Tonari Otsutsuki, the last descendant of Hamura. Tonari watched as Naruto and his high priestess approached, his eyes full of hollow pride. This world was meant to be destroyed, Naruto Uzumaki. It is an abomination of chakra. The only abomination is a resource that sits idle, Naruto replied. 6 paths, planetary devastation. Instead of creating a moon, Naruto used the moon itself. He manipulated the lunar crust, shifting the very geography of the satellite to trap Tonari in a cage of solidified stardust. Naruto didn't kill him, he siphoned the Otsutsuki DNA directly into a genetic storage scroll. But Naruto's primary focus was the Gedo Mazo, the husk of the 10 tails. He realized that to maintain eternal peace, he needed a source of infinite energy that didn't rely on the planet's life force. He looked at the women he had brought with him, Hinata and a newly summoned Hanabi Hyuga. The Hyuga bloodline is the bridge between Earth and the heavens, Naruto stated, his HUD interface projecting a schematic of the lunar core. Hanabi, genetic asset. Raw Byakugan potential. Function, energy battery for the satellite array. He placed a starlight seal on Hanabi's forehead. The seal didn't drain her, it converted her chakra into a high-frequency signal that could beam energy back to Earth. She became the guardian of the moon, her consciousness merged with the lunar defense systems. Naruto then turned back to Hinata. He fused a portion of his own 6 paths chakra into her Tenseigan. Hinata, you will oversee the lunar eye system. From here, you will watch every heartbeat on the planet. If a single soul thinks of rebellion, you will see it before the thought is even formed. With the moon now converted into a global surveillance and energy satellite, Naruto's control was absolute. He could now strike any point on Earth with a beam of concentrated solar chakra from the heavens. As he stood on the lunar surface, looking down at the blue marble of his empire, Naruto felt the final pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. The 5 nations were his body, the queens were his nervous system, and the moon was his crown. The harem had expanded into the stars. The world was no longer a collection of people, it was a system, and Naruto was its god. End of Chapter 8. Chapter 9. The Genesis Protocol, Global Rewiring. The conquest of the physical world and the stars was complete, but Naruto's Rinne Sharingan identified one final frontier of chaos, the human mind. To ensure that his empire lasted for eternity, he realized that the will of fire was an outdated, unstable concept. He needed something more absolute. He initiated the Genesis Protocol, a plan to synchronize the consciousness of every living being into a single, optimized stream. Naruto sat at the heart of the Imperial Spire, his body connected to the world's chakra veins. He summoned his primary, strategic pillar, Ino Yamanaka, to the center of the chamber. Ino, psychic asset, global consciousness hub. Naruto's voice was a cold vibration in her skull. The individual mind is the last refuge of war. We are going to build a global mind net. You will be the processor. He placed both hands on her temples, injecting a massive surge of 6 paths sage chakra directly into her brain. Ino's body hovered off the ground, her eyes glowing with a blinding violet light. Her mind-body switch technique was evolved into the Imperial Synchronization. She was no longer just a telepath, she became a living server for the world's thoughts. I see everything, Ino whispered, her voice echoing in millions of minds simultaneously. The anger, the doubt, it's all being smoothed out. Through Ino, Naruto filtered the global consciousness. He didn't erase memories, but he suppressed the conflict aggression impulses of the human brain. Every citizen in the empire felt a sudden, profound sense of calm and absolute loyalty to the shogunate. To maintain the physical health of this massive population, Naruto turned to Sakura Haruno and Shizune. He didn't want them just as doctors, he wanted them as biological engineers. He utilized the Gedo Mazo's energy to grant them the Nirvana Heal ability. Sakura, function, global vitality maintenance, Naruto commanded. Through the mind net, you will monitor the health of every citizen. If a heart falters, you will restart it from the spire. No one dies unless the empire permits it. With the imperial harem now serving as the world's brain, heart, and eyes, Naruto achieved the impossible, a world without crime, without hunger, and without pain. The women of the court, Hinata from the moon, Ino from the spire, Sakura from the labs, and the cage queens from the provinces, were the cogs of a perfect machine. But as Naruto looked into the digital violet sky, he saw a flickering shadow on the edge of the solar system. The main branch of the Otsutsuki was approaching, drawn by the massive energy signature of his perfect world. The shogunate was about to face its final test. Let them come, Naruto said, his voice a promise of extinction. My queens are ready, my world is ready, I am the end of all things. End of Chapter 9. Chapter 10. The God King's Zenith, Eternal Sovereignty. The final countdown began. The sky above the Imperial Spire didn't turn black, it fractured into thousands of shimmering dimensions as the Otsutsuki main branch arrived to harvest the planet. 3 massive entities, Momoshiki, Kinshiki, and Ashiki, descended, their power sufficient to crack the crust of a sun. But they didn't find a primitive world of scattered ninjas. They found a unified planetary defense system. So, the fox vessel thinks he can own the garden, Momoshiki sneered, raising his hand to erase the capital. Naruto didn't even stand up from his throne. You are an unauthorized intrusion in my domain, he said, his voice a divine frequency. Initiate, the Empress Ure. On the moon, Hinata and Hanabi focused their Tensagan eyes, channeling the lunar core's energy into a planetary shield that neutralized the invaders, space-time ninjutsu. In the spire, Ino synchronized the chakra of every living soul on Earth into a single, massive, weaponized stream. From the medical labs, Sakura and Karen boosted Naruto's regenerative cells to infinite levels, making him truly immortal. Naruto raised a single finger. 6 paths, universal deletion. A beam of pure, white-hot energy, fed by the loyalty and chakra of the entire world, erupted from the spire. It didn't just kill the Otsutsuki, it erased their existence from the timeline. The gods were vaporized before they could even scream. The universe fell silent. Naruto walked out onto the balcony of the spire. Behind him stood his imperial court: Tsunade, Mei, Hinata, Sakura, Ino, Temari, Kuratsuchi, Samui, and Konan. Each woman was no longer just a shinobi, they were planetary deities, each governing a fundamental aspect of reality: life, death, mind, matter, and space. The threat from the stars is gone, Naruto declared to the billions of minds connected to him. The era of gods, aliens, and kings has ended. There is only the Uzumaki. With a final pulse of his Rinne Sharingan, Naruto initiated the eternal synthesis. He merged his own consciousness with the planet itself. The earth was no longer a rock, it was a living, breathing Uzumaki core. The harem was the final evolution of human connection. There was no jealousy, no politics, and no distance. They were his queens, his council, and his soul. Together, they ruled over a world where a child would never cry, a blade would never be drawn in anger, and the sun would never set on the eternal shogunate. Naruto Uzumaki, the boy who once begged for a bowl of ramen and a shred of acknowledgement, now sat at the center of the universe. He wasn't a hero, he wasn't a Hokage, he was the absolute zero of peace. The world was perfect, the world was his. End of Chapter 10 Finale. The 5 nations have fallen. But Naruto's rule has only just begun. Power always demands a price. And not everyone will accept his reign. If you want Part 2, where rebellion rises from within, like the video, subscribe to Will of Fire Stories, and comment, Conqueror, below. This world no longer belongs to Shinobi. It belongs to Naruto.